Good evening and welcome to our news programme at 6 o'clock on Saturday evening, live from the heart of White Regis. And in the news this week, it's that time of the year when the council tax bills hit our doorsteps. And I'm sure if you haven't had yours, and I've had mine, that you'll be getting it very, very shortly. And of course, we'll be starting to pay, for those of us that pay monthly, we've had a couple of months off, we'll be starting to pay again on the 1st of April. The council tax funds all the services the council provides for residents, businesses, and of course to the wider community and those that visit the area. The council tax this year has increased from £313 million, this is the total budget, from £304 million last year. One of the reasons for the significant increase is the impact of COVID-19 and the higher demand on services, both during the pandemic and ongoing from residents. The increase in the council tax this year is just under 5%, which is of course well above inflation. With additional contributions supporting an increase in funding for general council tax services and of course adult social care in particular. What does it mean in real terms? Well, for a Band D property, and that's the one that we always hear about, this will see the council tax increasing from £1,694.79 to £1,779.39, an increase of £84.60 for the year, or £1.62 a week. Of course, those that are on areas like Portland, where you have town councils, etc., there is the extra layer of a charge that goes on as well. Councillor Gary Suttle, portfolio holder for finance, commercial and capital strategies, said it's been a particularly challenging developing the budget for the next financial year due to the high level of uncertainty caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. COVID has had a massive impact on our communities and our budget this year, and this is likely to continue over the coming months. We developed proposals that will deliver a balanced budget, but it has not been easy, and it is with a heavy heart that we have had to increase the council tax this year by 5%. We understand that many residents and local businesses have been hit financially by the pandemic, and there will be support available for the hardest hit. The budget assumption of it also includes a pay freeze for council staff, and that's also made with a heavy heart as well. And we are keenly aware how hard staff have worked for many months. These are tough choices, but we have to find ways to fund the support our communities want through the pandemic and the ever-growing need among our residents for social care services. We continue to lobby government for further funding, and we will endeavour to protect the vital council services on which so many residents rely. Reports from Dorset County Hospital in Dorset have said it may take up to 3 years to deal with the treatment backlogs and get waiting times back to where they were before the pandemic. Professor Alistair Hutchinson, who's the Chief Medical Officer at Dorset County Hospital, has said that there's been a huge effort to ease the waiting list for surgery and further planning being looked at to tackle the waiting list for other departments. Professor Hutchinson has also said for other specialist surgeries that require patients to be admitted to hospital, like knee and hip operations, the waiting lists across the NHS, including Dorset County Hospital, are huge. It will take time for it to recover, and we are looking at 2 to 3 years to get back to those waiting times that we had before the pandemic. The key is bed space in the hospital, because if the patient needs 2 days in hospital, there's a limit. This limits the operations that can be held during the week based on the number of beds. Most cancer and clinically urgent appointments and procedures have continued to take place at the Dorset-based hospital during the COVID-19 pandemic, but some patients have had their planned procedures or appointments postponed where it's clinically appropriate. Professor Hutchinson was keen to stress that some specialist services, such as X-ray in the radiology department, are doing really well in clearing backlogs by carrying out extra scans during weekends and evenings. He estimates that it will take approximately 2 to 3 months for the waiting list for scans to return to normal, so that's obviously good news. Likewise, with endoscopy appointments, the waiting list is easing and services have been able to continue during lockdown. The hospital is also using other providers, such as the Winterbourne Hospital, to help tackle the backlog. However, despite the high demands and backlogs, staff at Dorset County Hospital are keen to stress that should you need to go to hospital if you're unwell, or you need a procedure done, or you have an appointment at the hospital, that it is safe for you to go to the hospital and attend your appointment. Moving to other things, Premier Inns have announced that it wants to open a number of new branches in Dorset. This comes less than a week after its rival and main competitor, Travel Inns, made a similar announcement. Premier Inns, which is owned by Whitbread, wants to expand and build new hotels across the county, despite 2020 having had severe impact on the hospitality industry. Premier Inns already has a number of hotels across the county in Bournemouth, Christchurch, Dorset, Poole and Weymouth, and they have now issued a target list of places they wish to open either new Premier Inns or additional hotels. The target list for Dorset details Bridport, Dorchester, Shaftesbury, Swanage and Weymouth. Exact locations and the number of jobs the new hotels would create are not currently known, as it's early days. Louise Woodruff from Premier Inn said, "As a business, we're investing strategically in new locations across the south as we respond to growing demand from our customers for Premier Inn hotels in popular leisure and business locations. We own and operate many busy Premier Inn hotels across Dorset, and we're continuing to invest in new locations, with our first hotel in Bournemouth, Westcliff, due to open early in the summer. Elsewhere in the county, we're looking for new locations in Dorchester, Bridport and Weymouth, which are in-demand destinations for business travellers as well as guests looking for a short break or a staycation at affordable prices." At the beginning of this week, rival Travelodge had announced that it wanted to open 5 new hotels across Dorset with a very similar location list to Premier Inns. Travelodge has said that they are looking at Blandford Forum, Dorchester, Shaftesbury, Swanage and Weymouth. A spokesman for Travelodge said, "In order to afford these, we actively encourage developers to incorporate the hotels as part of a mixed-use scheme above, alongside or below another appropriate user. Town and city centre locations are our strong preference, and where overnight car parking is available within an easy and safe walk of the hotel, we are prepared to accept no parking." So there we go. That's news of Premier Inn and Travelodge wanting new and additional space to have hotels in the Weymouth and Dorchester areas. For those that enjoy going out for a beer and some food, they'll be pleased to hear that pub chain Green King has confirmed one of its pubs in Weymouth will reopen next month as lockdown restrictions in England ease. Green King has announced it will reopen 442 of its pub gardens next month, and customers will be able to book tables on their local pub's website from Friday, March the 26th. And providing there is space, people will also be able to turn up without a booking. Of course, the Old Rooms Inn in Weymouth on the harbour side is among hundreds of pubs owned by Green King that will be reopening. The White Hart in New Bond Street, also owned by Green King, will remain closed until restrictions on indoor pubs are lifted. Nick Mackenzie, Chief Executive of Green King, said, "It's great that we can finally open outdoor areas in some of our pubs after such a long period of lockdown, and we can't wait to start welcoming our customers back safely." And of course, last week we heard of plans to make space available on Weymouth Harbour side for tables to enable some of those pubs who don't have indoor space to reopen. So hopefully soon you'll be able to go and enjoy a beer or a meal outside, which is really good news after we've been stuck at home for so long. Dorset Police have announced that a man has been sentenced following the death of a man during assault at an address in Weymouth. Mark Robert Bosworth, 48, of Dorchester Road in Weymouth, was found guilty on this Thursday, the 11th of March, of the manslaughter of 32-year-old David Andrew Thompson, following a trial at Winchester Crown Court. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison. During the afternoon of Saturday, the 4th of April, a group of residents and visitors were gathered in the courtyard of a shared housing address in Dorchester Road. Some of the group had been drinking a large quantity of alcohol. An altercation occurred involving the victim and a female member of the group, where it is said that she was assaulted. One of the group rang the owner of the shared house and made him aware that there were people present who shouldn't be there. At around 4:05, Mr. Thompson went upstairs and was subsequently involved in a confrontation with Mr. Bosworth. Mr. Thompson was pushed down the stairs. A post-mortem examination was carried out on Monday the 6th of April, which concluded that Mr. Thompson died as a result of a head injury. Detective Inspector Wayne Seymour of Dorset Police said this was a totally avoidable and tragic incident and has sadly resulted in the death of a man. The case demonstrates that any level of violence can lead to devastating consequences. You'll also remember that several weeks ago, or maybe several months ago now, we actually mentioned extra electric vehicle charging points were to be installed across Dorset. We're now able to report that 17 new charging points are either now already installed or will be installed and working in the next few weeks. And 3 of those are on our doorstep in Weymouth, at Governor's Lane, Melcombe Regis and Swanry car parks. As I said, the points are either live as we speak or will be in the next couple of weeks. How do they work? Well, a quick top-up, a charge of 15 minutes will enable a journey of about 15 miles on an electric vehicle, and a full charge will take around 2 to 4 hours depending on the vehicle. The installation of the new charge points is one of a number of measures in the Council's ambition to become zero carbon by 2040 and accelerate several actions in its climate, ecological emergency strategy action plan. That's a mouthful. We've mentioned that one before, haven't we? The fast 22 kilowatt charge points that are being installed are supplied with 100% renewable energy and will enable drivers to charge their vehicles whilst visiting the county's towns. Additional points are also being installed in Dorchester, Blandford, West Bay, Lyme Regis, Wareham, Shaftesbury, Sherborne, Verwood and Wimborne. So if you're doing a short local journey, you can use your car, you can top it up and then obviously come back to Weymouth, all on renewable energy. And finally, and perhaps the most important news tonight, I'm just looking for the graphic and I can't find the graphic. Oh, that's a bit sad because I did put a graphic on here. No, I can't see the graphic. Cadbury's, so you've got an idea where we're going with this. Cadbury's have announced that they're about to launch one of their most iconic chocolate bars in the UK. The Birmingham-based UK chocolate company is about to bring Caramilk bars to Britain. The iconic Cadbury snack, which is hugely popular in places like Australia and New Zealand, is set to arrive this summer. The sweet caramel snack is not available in the UK supermarkets or convenience shops, and lovers of the treat have to order their Caramilk online, and many people apparently do that and get them delivered from down under. And apparently they cost about £6 a bar when they are delivered. So Chocoholics have apparently welcomed this news that they will be able to get the Caramilk bar at much cheaper prices, hopefully in the summer. And I'm sorry I couldn't put the graphic up, but I cannot see it. I did load it up earlier, but it seems to have disappeared off my screen. So maybe we'll show you what Caramilk looks like another week. Well, that's our headlines for this week. We're now going to move on to our main set pieces. And firstly this week, on Wednesday, it's St. Patrick's Day. We thought this week, therefore, we would have a look at St. Patrick and St. Patrick's Day, and I'm sure you'll be very familiar with, certainly when the pubs are open, everything gets covered green, and it's very, very popular in Ireland, of course, in our city centres, and in places like the United States of America. So let's learn a bit about St. Patrick and St. Patrick's Day.
Hello everyone. As we looked at St David's Day in readiness for March the 1st, I thought it only right and proper that today we looked at St Patrick, as St Patrick's Day is on March the 17th. St Patrick is the patron saint of Ireland, and he is celebrated for bringing Christianity to the country. He's thought to have grown up in Britain during Roman times, but was kidnapped and taken to Ireland as a slave. Once he was free again, he trained as a priest and went back to Ireland to convert thousands of people to Christianity. The dates of St Patrick's life cannot be fixed with any certainty, but sometime after 431 AD, Patrick was appointed as successor to Saint Palladius, the first bishop of Ireland. Patrick established his headquarters at Armagh. Tradition credits him with being the first bishop of Armagh and primate of Ireland. He's traditionally associated with the shamrock, a type of clover, and is often pictured holding one. Did you know that this three-leaved plant, which is symbolic of Ireland and St Patrick's Day, has an important meaning for all Christians? It is said to represent the Holy Trinity of the Father, Son and Holy Spirit. The three leaves of the shamrock are also said to stand for faith, hope and love. A fourth leaf is said to be where we get the luck from. You may have heard of the lucky four-leafed clover, but I wonder whether you've ever found one. There's a famous legend that St Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland, but the chances are it didn't happen, because it's unlikely that there ever were any snakes in Ireland. The snake may be a reference to serpent, a symbol of evil, and the driving out a reference to St Patrick's mission to rid Ireland of pagan or non-Christian religious influence. St Patrick's Day started as a religious feast to celebrate the work of St Patrick, but it's grown to be an international festival of all things Irish. People take part in parades and dancing, eat Irish food and enjoy huge fireworks displays. And the day is also famous around the world for people wearing shamrocks and dressing up as bearded fairies called leprechauns and wearing all green. Sometimes buildings around the world are turned green for the occasion. And it might encourage you to know that because St Patrick is a saint's day, people who have given up chocolate for Lent are allowed to indulge on the 17th of March. That's something to look forward to. Bye for now.
Thank you, Janet. And obviously, carrying on with the chocolate thing, it's really good if you've given chocolate up for Lent that you'll be able to have extra chocolate or some chocolate on Wednesday. And of course, the other thing interesting, in Weymouth, we have the Jubilee clock, and often the Jubilee clock is lit up to mark certain occasions. So it'd be very interesting to see if our own Jubilee clock is all green on Wednesday this week. The second story tonight affects many of us, and I was even reminded of this morning when I took a phone call from a recorded voice that said to me that my BT internet line had been used for fraudulent purposes and an investigation was underway and my line was going to be disconnected unless I pressed 1 and spoke to an investigator. I guess you know where this is going. We are often hearing these days about phone scams, text scams, postal scams, and even people knocking on our doors trying to get us to sign things and part with our money, and even in some instances actually taking people to cash points to get them to draw money out. So we all have to be very aware of these things these days. Now, I don't think I'm the brightest person in the world, and it's even difficult for me to make sure I don't get caught out. So I'm very, very conscious that there's lots of people out there in our community which would get caught out much easier than perhaps you or I would. So it's very important that we are scam aware. And therefore, I thought this week we would get our reporter Lydia to have a look at fraud and scams that we may face on the phone, over the internet, by text, or even on the doorstep. So we'll hand over to Lydia now to hear about fraud and scams.
Have you had one of those calls or texts that you are not too sure about? These days we have to be on our guard as there are so many scams about. In this report we are going to look at the 15 most common scams that have been seen during COVID-19. Scammers are trying to persuade people to switch their pension to a better one. Consumers are receiving emails, texts and direct messages through social media about free COVID-19 testing. Scammers pretending to be from HMRC are offering tax rebates. Scammers are pretending to be from the DVLA offering a refund to those that cannot use their car. Consumers are receiving text alerts that supermarkets are offering free vouchers for those in need. There are many fake contests at this time. If you have not bought a ticket, you cannot win. Scammers are tempting consumers to invest their money with an offer of high returns. Stop and think, is it too good to be true? Consumers are receiving text messages offering free school dinner vouchers. There are scammers contacting consumers pretending to be from travel companies. Watch out for automated messages stating your subscription service or internet has been cancelled. Scammers are pretending to be from the government offering free payments. Be wary of scammers calling at your door offering you services or asking to check your property. As with doorstep scams, watch out for fake websites selling fake PPE, antibacterial products, vaccines or COVID-19 testing kits. Scammers may attempt to trick you into sending money for a fake charity, a sick loved one or someone stranded abroad. Consumers are now receiving fake test messages from scammers informing them that they are being issued with a fine for breaking lockdown. Report any scams that come to you. You should contact Action Fraud on 0300 123 2040 or the police non-urgent number of 101. We are now going to hear Age Concern's advice on how to deal with doorstep callers, which is another big source of scams and fraud.
Take a look at that guy going door to door. Well dressed, presentable, but looks can be deceiving. Almost 5 million people aged over 65 believe they have been targeted by scammers. Yet most people think it won't happen to them. But no matter how clever you are, it can.
Oh, hello. Are you here to learn about doorstep fraud? Not how to perpetrate it, how to avoid it. You just need to remember this. Scams. Stop, check, ask, mine, share. Oh, perhaps here's a chance to put it into action.
Hi, I'm Lloyd. I'm from Roofing Experts UK. And I noticed you've got loose tiles on your roof.
Oh, have I?
Cost you a fortune to fix with some companies. I'll sort it for you today for 200 quid.
Okay, point 1, stop. Never do anything you don't want to or make any decisions on the spot. But let's just play along so I can show you the rest.
What was that, love?
Can I see some ID?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Always check. If they can't provide ID, they're not to be trusted. Looks plausible, but ID can be easily faked. So take a moment to remember you didn't ask this person to come round to look at your roof.
Shall I get one of my guys here now? 200's a great price.
Pushy, isn't he? Always ask someone you trust for a second opinion. I'll get my son to have a look at it. He's good with things like this.
Tell you what, I'll sort it today for just 150.
Well, I don't have that sort of money on me.
Well, there's a cash point in town.
Oh, that's miles away.
If you give me your card and your PIN, I'll get the cash for you.
Alarm bells should be ringing. Your PIN is very personal information, and if it's mine, I keep it to myself. I'm not giving you my card or my PIN.
Tell you what, I'll come back tomorrow when you got the cash.
No, I don't think so.
And I can see a problem with your guttering. I can sort that too.
Thanks, but no thanks. He was very suspicious, so I need to share this with neighbours and friends before he does succeed in scamming someone.
Lucy followed the 5 steps and didn't get scammed. And if you share your experience with others, it's less likely they will too.
Excuse me, did you know your roof needs fixing?
I think we know what to do here.
Scams. Stop, check, ask 9, share.
There we go, some very useful advice from Age Concern. And I think the thing is, if you feel suspicious about anything, is just to stop, as it said in that video, and to tell them to come back and to ring a friend or family member for advice. Don't be rushed into anything. If somebody's putting you under a lot of pressure, then it probably is something that you shouldn't be doing. Our next story this evening is we're going to catch up with our intrepid walkers. You'll remember that we have, over the last, I think it's 8 weeks now, or it seems about 8 weeks, I'm sure we'll find out how many weeks it is when we hear the report, that we've had a number of people out walking each week, and we thought it would be good if we made this a virtual walk. So the actual miles that they're walking were added together as if they were walking from Land's End to John O'Groats. And they got there so quickly that we then had to decide to walk back. And even walking back on the direct route we thought was going to be too quick, so they've actually been taking a rather long journey back from Land's End to John O'Groats. But most importantly, visiting lots of interesting places on the way. And I have to say, I found it very interesting over the last few weeks in learning lots of places and learning things about lots of places I'd never even heard of before. So it's been a very interesting report. So well done to those that came up with this idea. You'll remember that last week we left our intrepid virtual walkers at Kelmscott Manor, and they were heading off towards the source of the Thames. So we're going to go over to Janet now, who's going to update us, ably assisted by Jeff, on graphics, and to learn what our virtual walkers have been up to this week.
Hello everyone. Do you remember last week we had to stop just a few miles from the source of the Thames at Kelmscott Manor? We were all wondering what the source of the Thames would be like, and some of us had some very strange ideas indeed. So the next morning we got up and continued along the Thames path until we came to the source of the river. When we got there, it was actually a bit disappointing, just a stone marking the spot. But it was lovely to feel that we had walked the entire length of the river from the Isle of Sheppey to this spot where the water bubbled out of the earth. Having come so far off course, we decided to visit Wales, and we walked to Chepstow, where we spent a happy hour watching the races. Then on to Newport, where we crossed the River Usk on the famous Transporter Bridge. Now we're in Wales, I'm in danger of getting all the place names pronounced wrongly. Grace has been telling me the right way to say them all the way, but I still say it wrong, so please forgive me. I do know about Cardiff, though, and Cardiff was the next place that we went. This is where much of Doctor Who is filmed, and Ali wanted to try his hand at being a Dalek. Exterminate, exterminate. On the same theme of TV locations, we move on to Barry, where Gavin and Stacey is set. Heading inland, we visit the Royal Mint at Llantrisant. Sadly, no free samples to be had. Then on to Brecon, where I was able to call in on my family. It's a beautiful town with wonderful countryside all around it. And we had a beautiful stroll through the Brecon Beacons, a national park, with an overnight camp so that we could see the Milky Way from this official dark spot. Walking south, we meet the coast at Swansea. We then head west along the stunning Gower Peninsula and divert to Carmarthen, where we visit its ruined castle, before continuing to the smallest city in the UK, St David's. If you remember, we were talking about it on St David's Day a couple of weeks ago. From here we travel up the coast to Cardigan and then on to the university town of Aberystwyth. To progress further up the coast, we have to cross the River Diffy, which means travelling inland to Machynlleth. We visit the Centre for Alternative Technology, and we're all very impressed by the things that can be done to cut down carbon emissions. We head downstream to the pretty village of Aberdyfi, then north to Twyn, home of the Tallywin Railway, and also Mary's brother. Ali has to try driving the narrow gauge train up the mountain to the slate quarry, of course. We travel on to Portmeirion, the Italian-style village designed by Sir Clough Williams-Ellis. Do you remember it was the location for that surreal spy drama, The Prisoner, which was on, well, more years ago than I care to remember? And on to the popular resort of Abersoch, a relaxing stroll along the sands, empty at this time of the year, though of course Ali had to take a dip. Now you'll be wanting to know where we did end up. So here is Jeff's report. That is amazing. So here we are in Wales, wondering where on earth to go next. To find out, you'll have to watch next week. Bye for now.
Thank you very much, Janet and Jeff. Now, in this section, I'm going to update you on a couple of things that are happening in the future. First of all, you'll probably be aware at the beginning of May we have local elections, including elections for a councillor in White Regis. So over the weeks between now and May, we will be speaking to those prospective candidates that want to talk to you. And I have to say I've already got two who are booked in, and putting some questions to them so that you can learn a bit about them and who they are, and they can obviously try and get your votes to stand as your councillor here in White Regis. So watch this space. If you are one of those people considering standing, or you are standing and you haven't already contacted me and you would like to have an interview and get your fair share of minutes on the air, do drop me a line at news@whiteregis.tv and we will slot you in as well. The other thing is news about a new program we're going to be putting out. I've been looking at a partnership with several people in terms of gardening content. And I'm pleased to say we have managed to get an agreement with somebody who is producing regular garden content, and we will be broadcasting a separate gardening show on Friday evenings at 7 o'clock each week, just in time for the weekend, to give you an idea on what you should be doing in the garden if you've got a garden, or if you're planting up pots, what to do with planting up pots. So that will start next Friday at 7 p.m. We're also looking for a daytime slot during the week to do a repeat of that for those that aren't wanting to watch it on a Friday evening. So if you've got any ideas on what weekday daytime slot would be appropriate for that, do drop me a line, because I'd be interested in your feedback on that. But Fridays at 7 o'clock starting this week, we will be having our gardening spot, and hopefully that you will find interesting. I know I will, to know what we should be doing in the garden. Now, moving on, it's time to hear what the weather holds in store for us this weekend, what's left of it. And first of all, we're going to go over to Alex Deakin at the Met Office for the weekend weather forecast.
Hello, welcome to your latest update from the Met Office. The atmosphere around us remains highly energised. This blusterous weather will continue through the weekend. A cold, gusty wind throwing plenty of showers our way. There'll be sunny spells, never too far away, however. One of those days where the weather just completely chops and changes pretty frequently. Still plenty of showers around then on Saturday evening. Again, some snow over the tops of the hills across parts of Scotland. The showers further south, chiefly of rain. And here, showing signs of easing off as we go through the early hours. So for many across the south and the east, it will be a sunny start to Sunday. But here comes another clutch of cloud and showers drifting their way steadily southwards, eventually arriving across England and Wales. Maybe not getting to the far south till quite late in the day. And again, northeast Scotland should be largely dry and bright through much of the day, but still blustery here with showers across the Northern Isles. Elsewhere, the wind's not as strong on Sunday, but still quite noticeable. And yes, still a little bit more snow mixed in as we see that wet weather pushing south across the Pennines. Temperature-wise, a touch higher on Sunday, more widely up to 8, 9, 10 Celsius, and the wind's a little lighter, so it won't feel quite as cold perhaps on Sunday, but it's certainly going to turn pretty cold, it looks like, on Sunday night. But a big change in the weather as we go into next week. We're replacing low pressure with high pressure, so finally the wind's easing down as we go into next week, and overall it looks an awful lot drier. Before that, though, a blustery weekend to come. Keep up to date with the latest by following us on social media.
Thank you very much, Alex, from the Met Office with our weekend forecast. So what does the local weather look like, and what does the week ahead look like? Well, let's pop up the little chart for Weymouth. Well, Sunday will see a largely dry start with patchy cloud land for some sunny spells early on. Around 4 p.m. it will become cloudy with widespread rain and drizzle coming in for the evening. But it should brighten up and stay largely dry overnight, providing a maximum temperature of 10 degrees. Sunny intervals will continue on Monday, with gust of winds reaching a maximum of 24 miles an hour, and the outlook for Monday to Wednesday is largely dry, with patchy cloud and winds easing. Rain and drizzle is currently predicted for Tuesday morning, but there will be some sunshine later. The forecast for Wednesday is dry and bright with light winds and the temperature turning milder. But as we get towards the end of the week, as you can see on the chart, the temperature will start to drop once again. So as we said before, we're either bright and cold or milder and wet and sometimes windy. So a mixed week ahead. Let's just hope those sunny spells account for more of the weather than those dull patches and the drizzle and rain. Looking at our traffic and travel, There are quite a few roadworks underway across Wyke and Weymouth this current week. Obviously, the works on Custom House Quay are ongoing and will be coming to an end soon, I guess, because they're going to be opening up the harbour side. But there are currently works being done by Wessex Water in quite a few places, including Brighton Crescent, West Hill Road, Lanehouse Rocks Road, Mandeville Road, although none of these are expected to cause any major disruption. Also, Travel Dorset are working on Portland Road, BT are working in Marlow Road, and Scottish and Southern in Dorchester Road by the Weymouth Hospital. Again, none of these are expected to cause disruption. Southern Gas Networks are working on Abbotsbury Road, and these works are likely to cause disruption with traffic control as required. Turning to the trains, for once, and it's probably the first week in many, many, many weeks, there are no reported engineering works this weekend or for the week ahead, affecting services out of Weymouth. Well, that's very, very unusual. Now we come to the What's On section. The first thing I wanted to say is that earlier in the year I did tell you, and we did an interview, I think, with one of our local radio stations, and just to remind you that we're only on air once a week, 6 o'clock on a Saturday. But if you want local news during the week and the internet isn't for you, or the local newspapers aren't for you, let me just remind you that we do have both Keep 106 and Air, both local community stations offering local news and local programming throughout the week, and also internet-based Chesil Radio. Again, Chesil Radio is run from Weymouth and covers the whole of the south coast. Local program, local content, local news. So do support these services. They're all run by volunteers and the community, but they offer a great service to us here, which otherwise we wouldn't have, as the paid for services and the big broadcasters have basically pulled out of providing local services. Moving on to other things that's What's On, we've heard that the Knowth Fort is now going to be reopening its outdoor areas from the start of April, and that will include the cafe and the museum shop. They also hope to open their indoor areas from the 17th of May, and I'm just going to see if I can put their banner back up that I did with the contact details. There we go. So do look at the Knowth Fort website for specific details. We know that they've got the remote controlled tanks there on the 16th of May, and they'll be coming back in June, July, August and September, and they've got a production of Treasure Island on the 2nd of June. But please do watch their website as they open up. Do support this amazing local venue, again all run by volunteers. To remind you that we've got the Seafood Festival is now moved to the 11th and 12th of September as well. Also that Weymouth Pavilion, it will be starting to reopen, and they are going to do some further showings of their Christmas pantomime Rapunzel at the beginning of June. But again, watch the Weymouth Pavilion website. Information is being updated almost on a daily basis, and announcements will be made there. We will keep an eye on it, and we will update you on a weekly basis as well. Also to tell you that the Friends of Castle Cove Beach are planning a summer garden stroll. Now this sounds very, very interesting. On the 26th and 27th of June. It's a little way off, but there's a lot of planning involved. They're hoping that 25 people will open their local gardens to people, and to enable you to have a stroll around the area visiting people's gardens. Now they've got a number of people who volunteered already, but if your garden is based between Buxton Road and Rylands Lane, so it's effectively walking distance from Castle Cove, then they would like to hear from you if you would be willing to open your garden to the public on the 26th and 27th of June. To get in touch with them, do drop me a line, and I will put you in touch with the organisers from the Friends of Castle Cove Beach. So that's the summer garden stroll on the 26th and 27th of June, looking for gardens in the Buxton Road to Rylands area, Rylands Road Rylands Lane area of Weymouth. Also, another appeal, Weymouth South Scouts are currently fundraising to help some scouts go to the Jamboree and things like that, and they're using the bags to school process, which I'm sure some of you will be aware, where you can collect jumble and that sort of stuff, and they actually get money for providing the jumble and the unused things that people want. So if you've got any clothes, etc., that you would like to donate or want to get rid of, and rather than putting them in the bin, would like them made use of, and to help a local group with their fundraising, there is a collection on the 26th of March, which is 13 days time. You can drop off items at 154 Portland Road, so nice central location in Wyke. And they'll be really pleased to hear from you. If you've got any questions or want any further information, again, do drop me an email and I'll be pleased to help. So that's Bags to School as a pick-up on the 26th of March in aid of Weymouth South Scouts at 154 Portland Road. Now, moving on, we're going to look at our film review for this week. And as I mentioned previous week, we now have an arrangement with some of the major film producers, one of which is Warner Brothers. And Warner Brothers Pictures and Legendary Pictures have announced that their long-awaited face-off between two icons of Godzilla and King Kong is the next epic adventure in the legendary cinematic Monsterverse directed by Adam Wingard. Legends collide in Godzilla vs. Kong as these mythic adversaries meet in a spectacular battle for the ages, with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. Kong and his protectors undertake a perilous journey to find his true home, and with them is Gia, a young orphaned girl with whom he has formed a unique and powerful bond. But they unexpectedly find themselves in the path of an enraged Godzilla, cutting a swathe of destruction across the globe. The epic clash between the two titans, instigated by unseen forces, is only the beginning of what the mystery that lies deep within the core of the earth. Godzilla vs. Kong will be available on home rental premium channels from the 1st of April and hopefully later in the year at cinemas. Here's the trailer.
This is our only chance. We have to take it. We need Kong.
The world needs him.
To stop what's coming. And this child.
She's the only one he'll communicate with.
I knew that they had a bond. She had nowhere to go, so I made a promise to protect her. And I think that in some way, Kong did the same. It's Godzilla.
These are dangerous times.
Godzilla's out there and he's hurting people and we don't know why.
There's something provoking him that we're not seeing here.
I'm of the same opinion.
The myths are real. There was a war. And they're the last ones standing.
I keep reaching for greatness because I'm built from it.
Who bows to who?
Nobody gonna stop me. Here we go.
Kong bows to no one.
There we go. That's Godzilla versus Kong. That should have been released in the cinemas, but like so many of our great movies being released over the last year and at the current time, is being released on premium pay-for channels on our set-top boxes. But hopefully our cinemas will open again soon, and we'll see some of these epic movies on the big screen in our cinemas. So it just leaves me to remind you of a few things coming up. Obviously, our regular services in All Saints Church are 9:30 tomorrow, which will be live streamed. This church will open again in about 2 weeks' time. I think it's 2 weeks' time, and we'll give you further news of that next week. And there's a live stream service on Monday evening at 5 p.m. Don't forget, we've got our quiz tonight, our Saturday evening live quiz at 7:30, and you are all most welcome to join us. That's available on all the channels that you're watching on now. As I've announced earlier, we will be starting our special gardening programme this Friday at 7 p.m. And other than that, it just leaves me to say, stay safe for the week ahead. Hopefully the weather will be good, and maybe you'll get out in the garden next weekend. So do look in on the gardening programme and see if there's things that you need to do in your garden next weekend. Until then, I'll see you next Saturday at 6 o'clock. Good night.